Eliminate a variable. Drift with Royal Purple Max Gear. Pour Purple, Royal Purple. You can find Max Gear at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
モータースポーツで得た高度な技術を全てのレイズホイール一本に込める魂は永遠に変わらない。ビヨンド・ザ・レボリューション。ザ・コンセプト・イズ・レーシング。
There's no better way to test your tires than on the racetrack. That's why at Kenda Tires, we compete with the same tires we sell. And that's how the technology built into every Bethesda UHP Max tire goes from podium to pavement. Whether you're a professional driver chasing podiums or a grassroots enthusiast looking for weekend excitement, Kenda Tires are designed for your journey.
NGK, the leader in high ignitability spark plugs, is proud to announce the launch of its Mod Performance Ignition Coils. Designed and built for performance, Mod Coils feature custom primary and secondary windings to increase output and performance. Mod Coils provide maximum levels of dielectric strength, voltage insulation, and durability. Level up like the pros. Choose Mod Performance Ignition Coils from NGK, the official coil sponsor of the Formula Drift Pro Spec class.
What is going on? Formula Drift Orlando, Jacob Gettens here, coming to you for practice, and we are starting things off in a very, very interesting way. Don't worry, this is all scheduled, this was planned. Earlier in practice, if you didn't catch it, we did see a competitor pop an engine. Odi Bakshi's looks like he is going to be looking for an engine crate. We'll be swapping in another engine. So he does have some time though, he's not in the seating bracket, so as long as he gets that done overnight, be able to compete tomorrow, and there shouldn't be too much of an issue. But we are waiting for the flames to go out and the oil cleanup to finish so we can come back and get some more runs going. We've got João Barrion and Kazuya Taguchi sitting there ready to go. They've been sitting, hanging out, hopefully not getting too hot. And yeah, speaking of hot, super hot out here, and I've got an amazing guest in the booth with me today. You got the weekend off. I'm putting you to work a little bit, but you got the weekend off. We got Reese in. What's going on, bud?
What's going on, man?
Are you? Is this the first event this year for you where you've gotten to sit back a bit?
Yeah, this is the first event where I've been able to just kind of sit back and just kind of see everything unfold. And not gonna lie, looking forward to it.
it's kind of like a you're showing up to work, but not actually having to work. You just get to observe everybody and make notes and more or less hang out.
Yeah, I show up on my day off.
Yeah, that's how committed you are to.
Tells you how, yeah, we'll go with that.
No, it's good. What are your so well, let's before we get into it too much. You are new this year for judging,
yeah.
But still full-time drift instructor, which is awesome. You and I are talking about the clinic, and maybe I'll come in and get some lessons. But you also come from being a spotter for Chelsea DeNofa, championship-winning spotter, which I think maybe gets glossed over a little bit too much. So putting the spotter's hat back on, coming into this track, what's something that you're kind of chatting about with the team, chatting about with Chelsea or whatever driver you're working with to get everything set up for this track?
Well, I mean, for this one, it's just really kind of see how everybody's getting settled. You
know
what I mean? Like, you pay really attention to practice. You try to make sure that you're able to see who's getting in rhythm, And you're also trying to see if anybody's having certain hiccups in certain areas.
Okay.
And if those hiccups are areas that could possibly get a little sketchy, let's say like, in a transition or something like that, those are the things that you should be, keeping notes on and stuff like that, so you can move it over and explain to your driver, hey, look, this is what he's doing. You want to make a note of that, so you can make the proper adjustments and things. As today, we've been watching everybody go around, and I'm sure all the spotters here, they've just been very vigilant on trying to see what everyone's doing, what rhythm everybody's keeping, and who's being consistent out there.
Yeah, so it could be how they're coming into initiation, if they're using a feint entry, straight line entry,
absolutely,
kind of a momentum shift, that kind of thing. That way, if they're going to have to chase that driver, they know what they need to do to time it out, right? Don't dive in too early. He's going to swing wide. You want to basically cut wide to mirror that, so that way when he cuts in, you can kind of follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And those were the things, like, for instance, when I was spotting for Chelsea last year, I actually came in from Orlando forward.
Oh, cool.
And those were things that we would look at, like how someone initiates, what speed were they carrying on the bank and stuff like that. Those are the things that every specific driver is going to ask for a couple of things, and at least for me, that's what I was tasked with.
Okay, gotcha. And then when it comes to the transition here, we almost had a different layout last year, which would have been really interesting. We did swap back to this for a few different reasons, but I really feel like with this event, where it's kind of made or broken is in the transition, right? We have this huge outside zone. The tires are absolutely cooking. Are basically the inside, your rear left, is absolutely crushed at that point. Then you come through this transition point, and there's a few different lines that drivers can take in order to get through this. So with us watching, are there any drivers in particular that you saw that maybe took a different line through this section, or did something differently kind of through our two inner clips?
I don't know so much to say, have I seen anybody take a different approach maybe? I think they're just doing what they can, given the chassis that they're dealing with. When I was with the RTR last year, there were certain ways that the car would react when you're going through the transition. And then you had other people such as Taguchi, who was very fluid and smooth going through. Osbo was able to stay on throttle and transition through and wind up the car and release it and help them get into that other clip and then position them good into the outside zone. So it's really understanding how that's going and being able to convey to your driver, hey, get ready. This is how he's going through, the middle section. And I agree with you. This section right here where they're doing the transition is probably the most crucial part, because we were talking about if you were in the chase and you make that decision to make that transition, you're cutting through pretty much a blind spot.
Yeah.
And when you pop out on the other end, you can either be too far on the inside, too far out, way too close. So it's really interesting to see how these guys are navigating through this transition and then jumping on throttle again to get into the pocket.
Nice. Let's get into drivers' meetings notes. So for anybody watching right now or anybody sitting in the grandstands, after Atlanta, after every event, really, we go through, take a look, go through some of the different battles and understand where changes need to happen. At the beginning of this year, we saw more changes than I think we've ever seen in the history of Formula Drift. A massive amount of rules got cut out and simplified, but with that, we've had to go through due to different circumstances and different battles and make some updates. So a few things that came out of the drivers' meeting this morning and those discussions. First one, originally you could straighten for up to 2 seconds. That has now been reduced to 1 second at 0 degrees. The kind of joking rule of thumb that we've had is if you can say one Formula Drift and you are still going straight, that is an incomplete at that point in time. Yeah.
So I think that's a big crucial thing and something we definitely want to reiterate. A lot of people, there was maybe a little bit of confusion about the 2 seconds and stuff like that, but I think with having this now, having a limit of it being 1 second or counting one Formula Drift, you're very easily able to see, okay, this person's straightened up. This is the new protocol. This is the new standard.
Yeah, and I think that's important that, we know that things do need to get updated, things do need to change, and we need to more or less, continue to develop things. We had this massive change, and we need to look at all the different situations. The rulebook has been changing year over year, event over event, for as long as FD's been around. If anybody wants to see the updates, they're super easy to find. Go to formuladrift.com, go to the very bottom of the website. In the little footer section, you'll see a thing that says rulebook. You open that up, has all the updated rulebooks. If you want to know what's changed, it's made really simple. You go to the last page on that rulebook, it dictates everything that's been changed, and everything in the rulebook that has been changed is highlighted red. Super simple, Very easy to find. We'll continue to talk about it throughout the live stream, both on this one and in Seating 16 and into tomorrow. Yeah, so we want everybody to be up to date on everything that's going on. So I will say, taking a look here now that we're getting cars kind of back in the box, back warming up, Joao Barillon is a driver we saw in the last round who's done quite well, continues to do well. His practice runs today look really, really good, really aggressive, very consistent, high on the bank, kind of everything that we're looking for when it comes to a good run here in Orlando.
Absolutely. John Barillon has been doing really good today. He really blew my mind the last round over in Atlanta. Very consistent. He was very fast. He was very precise. I don't know what changes may have happened. I haven't had an opportunity to go ask. But he's looking really good.
Yeah.
And I think even just seeing this right here is just going to be, it's going to be a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know on one side of things he did change over tire brands. He changed over to the Kenda, which could be a large part of it. They've been developing that car for a long time, and I mean, it kind of started almost as a stock car that over the years he's now developed into what it is now. So, I mean, hopefully we don't announce his curse it, but like, this already looks like a different car. Pushing a little bit wide there, but I mean, that was super aggressive, super hard.
Go for it, having the confidence to push it, that's what you're looking for. And I think when you see a driver start to do something like that, they understand that they're eventually going to have to dial it in, focus where they need to have it, and having that confidence and that momentum that they carry through is really going to be an effective way of going about it.
I think what's also neat, too, that got brought up in the drivers' meeting is there was a big note made, which was, hey, guys, loosen up your cars. Start the cars loose, run the bank, get everything dialed in, and then let's tighten it up. Let's start putting more grip in at that point in time. Don't just come out and practice on, full, kill mode and see if you can get around the track. Start loose, then dial in the speed after that. Because it's kind of what we see in competition too, right? Like, once they get to the finals, they're going 5, 10, 15 miles an hour faster. Don't start practice that way. Get comfortable with the track and then start to up the difficulty at that point in time.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that, Jacob. I think, the smart thing is to have a car that's fairly loose, getting to the zones that you need to, and then slowly start making those adjustments to pick up speed. If you start noticing your car gets a little bit twitchy, you may want to start dialing it back. Obviously, every driver has their own recipe for success, but I would like to say that's probably the best thing you can do to go about it that way.
Yeah, I think why start, super difficult. This run, I mean, this is the first time he's been on a bank. Is at this event. We've been watching him all the way. Very consistent. Super ripper. Yeah, it's been really, really fascinating to see. Ryan Literal has had some good practice as well. I mean, other than a couple of mechanicals so far, practice has been quite. I don't want to use the term surprising, but just everybody seems to be on it. There's been a few drivers that are, in my opinion, kind of lacking some commitment, where I'd like to see them on throttle through the whole thing, but it's been really good. If you're new to the new seating format, just to give you a heads up, the old days of qualifying, they're gone.
They're done.
We're into seating, all tandem, start to finish, seating bracket and main event, top 32. Each round finishes, dictates the next round of brackets. So basically, however they finish up tomorrow, whatever that ranking is what essentially sets up the next set of rounds. So if you win your first battle here in seating, coming up after practice, so stay tuned for that, you're in for the show tomorrow.
And then from that point forward, you're pretty much rocking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you essentially have to, if you make it into top 16, you're pretty much into, you're going to skip the seating bracket on the next one. So basically, like, I do like this element of it because it adds more pressure to all of these tandem runs.
Yeah, and a lot more action. I mean, we're all about the action.
Yeah, the only, I've said this a few times, like the only thing I miss about qualifying is I do kind of miss being able to talk about one driver specifically, really break down what's going on. But I'm thinking now with what we're doing with the practice stream and a few other things, like we're getting some of that information. It's give and take, right?
Right, and it's happening in real time. I mean, you can see these guys are going out here battling right off the rip, testing each other out, kind of feeling each other out to see how they're going to go about it. And, you know, when it comes to qualifying, it was cool, but these guys are so good at what they do here that we were splitting hairs like 0.2 points here or 0.3 points there. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, you guys are all good. let's have you guys battle it out.
Yeah.
And I think it's been really good. And going back to what you were saying about how, you know, it seems like people are really starting to get comfortable right now. I think it's because we were 2 events in. This is our 3rd one.
Yeah.
And I think people are really starting to find their groove now, found their legs, let's just say, and we're starting to see the results of that out here.
Well, I think just being able to dial the car in right away. I mean, even from the spotters notes, right? Like, you're able to start looking at tandem almost immediately, as opposed to before where you're trying to walk them through, hey, this is going to be your setup for qualifying. This is what we need to do for qualifying. These are the points you need to talk about for qualifying. Now as a spotter, now as a mechanic, now as a driver, all you have to think about is setting the car up and developing everything for tandem. That's it, right?
Absolutely.
It slims down so much information. And I'll say it, I mean, it's already leading to better tandem.
I think so it is too. I think it really allows people to maybe not get into their head too much about putting down that killer qualifying run.
Yeah.
And they start looking at who are they going to be going against, how are they doing out there, what rhythm are these drivers having, where could I potentially fall in the bracket, who am I going to go against. So it's a different approach now, and it's a different game plan that I think a lot of these teams and drivers are using to get through the event.
Yeah, I like the idea of kind of making it a little bit more simple when it comes to the notes and the development of the car and even things like suspension and other stuff. So take a look here. Alex Robin's on one, man.
Yeah, he's been on a heater all weekend. He's been coming. I mean, I know you guys have. I don't know if you guys have they seen a lot of this practice? Or is this
no, this is it, man. This is a lot of people.
Well, we've been privy to see a lot of stuff happen already the previous practice, but I don't. Alec is doing really good out there. Novak too. I know. Nobody's seen the runs he did before, but we saw a couple of the runs prior to, and Novak's really looking good out there. Alec is really comfortable out there. It's exciting. I'm excited to get this ball rolling and starting the fists start flying. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I love the fact that we can show up into practice and this is what it looks like. So taking a look at seating, this is what we're more or less laying out here coming up right after this practice stream. So Dmitry Brudsky, he's going to be going right into the show. He gets to bump ahead. Federico Sharifo, Rudy Hansen, Joao Barrion, Adam LZ, Andy Haley, Mike Power making his return. Did miss Atlanta. He is back.
Awesome to see him back.
Yeah, love the car, love the livery. Ryan Littoral, Kyle Mohan, Derek Madison, Dean Carney not here. Looks like he's only doing the West Coast events this year.
Right.
Derek getting a bit of a pass in, which is good. Vaughn getting Diego Higa. Vaughn also not competing in this one.
Right.
Higa getting that pass in. And then the last but not least, this will be a spicy one. Ben Hobson, Connor Shanahan.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the appetizer we're all looking forward to for sure at this one here, is to see those guys duke it out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool to see. I mean, 2 rookies coming in, both of them with extraordinarily high expectations. I mean, you coming off of working with RTR, you know how difficult these cars are to drive.
Yeah, I mean, they're nothing like what I think a lot of people are used to when it comes to drifting. And it definitely takes a high level of skill being able to perform with those vehicles, understand the characteristics of those vehicles, and the amount of reflex that you need to have and quick reflexes that you need to have when you're driving these cars, it's through the roof.
Yeah, I've noticed like when they come off throttle, like they just get wild. Like they need to be driven full throttle all the time. Absolutely.
They need to be driven at all time, full concentration, and it's just really cool to see that you're able to focus in that much with these machines to get the result that you want and place them in these amazing lines that we asked them to do.
Yeah, it really is wild. Like, you know, if you really look at it and think back, like we are asking them to almost do the impossible.
Oh,
right?
we're probably asking them to do the impossible.
But I mean, at this point, like this is the top level of drifting. So why not ask them to do the impossible? Because oftentimes you guys do, we do as a sport,
Absolutely.
and then they do it, and then it's like, okay, where do we go now?
I almost feel like we believe in them more than they believe in themselves. I'm like, no. You can do this. We've seen you do it. Like, you can. You are that good, my friend.
Yeah, I think a couple of good examples, even Atlanta, like there was discussions about drivers using the rumble strips, and you guys like, look, you don't need to do it. You can do this. If you want to use the rumble strip at your own peril, you could deviate a tire, which we did see happen.
Yeah, we did.
But going back and looking at some of the best runs, they didn't use the rumble strip at all. They stayed on track the whole time, and you know, it's one of those like almost like raising kids. Sometimes you have to tell them they can accomplish something that they themselves don't believe.
Right. That's a great analogy.
He's got to encourage.
You being the amazing father that you are can definitely can give some insight to that. But that's definitely how that goes. You almost have to like hype these guys up a little bit. Like, no man, you can definitely do this. I know we're asking you to do this crazy line, carry this speed, get this close from the wall, but we know what you guys are capable of, and we believe in what you do.
Yeah, no, it's incredible what they're able to pull off and what they're able to do, you know, with these cars. And they're just getting faster. You know, I feel like every time we put some sort of restriction on them, they find a way to get around it, to drive around it, and just, you know, make it happen and make these cars incredibly fast.
And that just pays homage to just the evolution of the skill set that they have. I mean, we're looking at guys that have been doing this for a long time, and we got Field out there who's been doing this for, I mean, I've seen him in an S chassis way back in the day.
Yeah, we were talking about his old liveries, right?
Yeah, his old liveries.
Gears of War livery for Irwindale one year.
Absolutely. And then you have Brewski. I remember seeing Brewski in the Z3, then he had a Z4, and then he's moved over to the E chassis. It's just amazing to see, you know, where they're starting from and ultimately end up in the big stage that we have here.
Well, this is why, I mean, I very much love ProSpec. I like to see the development of it. I love that more and more Pro-Am series and grassroots series are in the capability to live stream, because you get to see, like, look at this, right? Like, you know, Brudski right on Matt through the majority of that run. But you get to see that development. You can watch some guy at some small track, you know, there's a very basic live stream put together. You're like, man, I think that kid's going to do well.
Yeah.
And then you watch him get into, you know, pro spec, watch him develop, and then into pro. So.
And I think there's been enough drifting going on, and there's been enough events and history that's gone on, and enough experience where we're able to look at these drivers and say, oh, this guy has something. This has something that's going to develop into something really good. And that's what we ultimately see here on Unravel in front of us. They come in from the Pro-Am series, they go into Pro Spec, and then they go into Pro, and then they really start dialing things in. And obviously going into Pro, it's not just about the skill, it's about having the correct program, understanding, you know, it's a business, you know what I mean? And to see someone have the maturity and the capacity to put all of that together and then to go out and perform, how do you not, you know, give a hat tip to that?
Yeah, it's so much more than that. I mean, I remember hearing Vaughn do something, or have a talk, and he basically says, like, hey, driving is the reward. You know, all the hard work that you're putting in, driving is the reward for it, and that's what we get to see here. So
absolutely, very well put. I mean, that's coming from a veteran who's been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. The dude knows what's up. So, Reese, dude, I appreciate you spending a couple of minutes. We got a super cool guest coming on next. I mean, somebody you know.
Well, I kind of know him a little well.
You kind of know him a little bit?
He's all right.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. Get to hang out all weekend. You get the weekend off.
Yeah.
We're gonna be chilling.
Come by, say hi, give me a high five.
Yeah, does dole out some super sick high fives. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. Any closing words, man? Anything else you want to throw out to everybody?
You know, just hang on tight. You know, give us all the opportunity to kind of iron everything out the way we need to. And I think, you know, the evolution of what we're doing is going to be very pleasing. And you know, everything takes time. You know, you can't just flash cook something. You got to give it a little bit of time and let it produce.
Dude, thank you so much again. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to take a quick break here, everybody. When we come back, we got Mr. Chelsea DeNofa on. So stay tuned. We're going to hang out, you know, just kind of chat and catch up, see what he's been up to.
Absolutely.
And don't go anywhere. We'll be right here with practice.
GT Radio. Experience ultra high performance.
on race day, when we want to show everyone out there who's the best.
Here we go, Frederick Osborne.
We really need to be focused. I tell myself, I got this. I'm the best there is.
The star is Frederick Osborne.
If your answer to the summer heat is let it rain, we're looking for you. Join us at Toyota Racing.
Is this it?
This is it!
All right, we're back here in Orlando. I managed to track somebody down after, berating him with text messages. Can you please come up here? It's all good. Chelsea, what's up, buddy? How you been?
Pretty good. How about you?
Dude, it's good, man. I'm in Orlando. It's hot.
Yeah.
Tuke was
Sorry
a bad
I'm
idea.
late. I've been trying to help out a little bit in the pit area, but it's been good so far.
Yeah. Are you enjoying retirement? I feel you're like as busy, if not busier, than than you were.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance of being busy and enjoying life and making sure I get to all the events and things I want to see and do.
No, it's been good. Is it bittersweet kind of being here, or what's your mindset of spectating? I know you're working kind of, but like still not being in a car.
It's a good feeling. I like it. It's kind of an enjoyment thing. Like I never really get to see it from the outside ever.
Yeah.
Because when I'm here, I'm always like head down, doing everything I can to win, make sure the team has what they need, feedback and engineering things. So I get to watch this now, watch everybody drive, and kind of get a different outlook and different kind of absorption of what's happening out there.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm sure you're still like taking notes and like looking at things and trying to more or less figure out what, what's going on and what somebody could improve on. Like, does it ever turn off? Or are you like still looking at somebody's line and you're like, man, what are you doing?
I don't think I'm ever like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely like, there's room to improve in these places, and I'm working with a couple guys out here to kind of get them up to speed and speed them up in some scenarios with this track, because we've done well here in the past. And yeah, like I said, it's a refreshing thing to be able to see it from the outside, see how the fans interact with everything, and actually take some time to sit back and pay attention a little bit more.
That's fair. Well, speaking of paying attention, your old car out on track. I swear we didn't set this up. This is just how it works.
No, it's perfect. I'm working right now from here as well.
Oh, it's perfect. We can maybe let's see if we can break down and potentially provide some notes. I mean, you don't have to give away all the secrets, but it would be interesting from your brain to understand what you're looking at specifically with Ben here in the chase against Osbo. That's not going to be an easy one. So.
Yeah, so I'm always looking at like what the car is doing and the attitude of it, trying to make the driver one with the car, right? The driver's ultimately going to decide what's happening. So little inside, less angle, but right in the pocket where he should be. Diving in, cars look pretty equally gripped up here. Coming through inner clip one, good positioning from Ben. Perfect timing on the transitioning, that's all we've been working on all day.
Nice.
Washes out a little wide at the end, but the timing was so good that it kind of makes up for a learning curve of the second half of it. Osbo doing a really good lead run, putting the car everywhere it's supposed to. That's a really good run to chase, because you got to have a good lead to have a good chase.
Yeah, look, we talked a little bit about the transition and kind of popping out of the smoke here. It seemed to me on that run like he popped out, realized where he was, and it was like kind of a quick, like, oh, I have to make a correction. But in the speed of these cars, that split second, if you're not turning the wheel the right way or back on throttle, it's going to push you that wide.
Yeah, and it becomes really apparent too, like if you dive through the smoke and you're approaching the car in front of you because they're maybe slowing, getting set up, adding angle, doing what they're supposed to do as a lead car driver, and then as the chase, you now need to make a correction because of that. But then the lead car gets on the gas at the same time, then there's a gap, right? So there's the risk involved. Do I believe that guy's going to pick up the throttle and go on time? Is my speed correct? Those types of things are what goes through your head. And on that one, it was just a little off. Ben had a handbrake right when he was picking up the throttle at the same time.
Yeah, it's amazing how just a small thing like that. But I mean, this is a track of perfection, right? Like there's minimal zones. We're not getting into like a lot of shifting or anything else like in Atlanta, where you're constantly rowing through the gears. So a little bit different. Yeah, I was really on the wall.
That was deep there. Yeah, you had a little spot where a car hooked up a little bit and drove him down. We made a correction and then pushed him right back up the bank and into the wall.
Yeah, Turks runs lifts today have been like slowly getting dialed in. It looked like he needed a little bit more of a push to kind of get things rolling in the beginning, but it looks pretty dialed in now.
Yeah, that car always looks good on track too. It kind of does all the things it needs to, but it does not hide anything.
No, I mean,
like the Mustangs, where like any little mistake that you make is amplified quite a bit because we're trying to do what we can to make the best development setup and everything.
Take a look at season standings. Your boy, James Dean, doing pretty well. Simon Olsen. I'd like to call him the dark horse, but I don't think he is anymore. I think everybody's fully aware of what this kid can do.
Oh, yeah, he's a ripper.
Yeah, for being so like kind of shy and gentle, and then you put him in a car and he's just a maniac.
I thought it was really cool, too, because Osbo is kind of pumping Simon up and learning some things from Simon and being vocal about that, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, and then, teammate Odie 4th, and then Roman 5th, man. I mean,
holding it down for America right there.
He's your hope. He's your last hope, right?
That's it, dude.
I mean, it's a worldwide sport now. Like, you really look at it, it's crazy. And I know what's going on in Europe. There's a lot of the learning curve seems to be really short there. Like they're just on it. So yeah, Ken Gucci, Matt Field, Forrest Wang, Dan Burkett, Chris Forsberg. I mean, great to see Dan already in the top 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's really turned it up this year. I think the focus and his driving has cleaned up a lot, and that's really made his ability kind of shine a bit more than previous years.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the time off, right?
I agree.
Maybe that's going to be your secret when you make your grand comeback in the Porsche.
The only problem is I can't do any better than I did the year I left. So
yeah. I don't like it. You could go.
Brag as Jeremy.
Yeah, you can go champ on that one, right? I mean, is it still champ if there's a year off in between?
Yeah, maybe personally.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Not figured, not literally, but
yeah, it's just a year that you forget about. You're like, I was doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Porsche there. I mean, what's that been like?
It's been really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a learning process that's been really exciting for me. Like I'm really into drifting because of the progression and growth of it, and I feel like this, as a technical standpoint, is like really pushing my boundaries of learning things.
Yeah.
And kind of like being able to take things that I've learned from RTR, running my privateer team, working with a lot of pro spec guys. It's been really cool to like get a chassis that like it's all me from the start and have some fun with it. And, the wins, the losses, the learning curve, the win, like it's just kind of like all kind of related back to like an effort that's mostly myself. So it's cool to have that gratification.
Yeah, when you had the first kind of testing shots that were coming up, I think Reese was posting on his stories, was immediately messaging. I'm like, yeah, it looks really gripped. He's like, he's dialing it in, don't worry about it. And I'm like, man, noticing. He's like, he's got it, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's kind of exceeded all of my hopes already, and it's good moving forward. We have lots of room to play with things and kind of grow it and kind of bring new people into the sport with the Porsche involvement and all that.
As it sits right now, what level of competition would you be comfortable taking it into? Like, do you think it's at the level of pro right now if you were to get the technical regulations in? Do you think you could bring it into pro spec and do well? Do you think it'd be like pro am it would just crush? Like, where in that
it's
scale?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
It's still very much like the first iteration of it.
Okay.
Still needs a lot of work. There's a lot of adjustment. I think it'd be cool to do some like smaller events just to get it through the paces in competition. But I'm kind of more focused on finding out what the chassis can do and learning a lot about it before I go put it into something serious. I think it can get popped pro spec right now still. It doesn't have enough power, and I don't even know that I can put the tire on the car because it's low right now.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I guess just push it to every extreme you can and then start to dial it back from there, right?
Yeah, and the process was meant to be relatable, right? So somebody who wants to build that car, they can go buy this steering kit, this tune, this turbo, this exhaust, and really I'm kind of forging the direction of that.
Yeah.
Instead of these cars out here are so wild, right? That's what makes them so cool. So much crazy stuff is happening, so much power, so much grip, so much skill behind the wheel. Whereas the Porsche thing is meant to be a little bit turned down from that and be a little bit more relatable, fun, and kind of bring new people into it.
How funny is it that a Porsche is turned down from these cars, right? We look at them oh, this is dialed back from what we normally drive, right?
Yeah, I mean, these cars are purpose built.
Yeah.
They're lightweight, they have tons of power, they have lots of grip, and how the car makes the grip is so different than any other type of motorsport, right? So
it's a good point.
I've kind of talked to guys who worked on IndyCar and some Formula One chassis engineers, and they're like, oh, it makes sense. I've never thought of that way, right? And someone at that level, never thinking of it this way, is just proof that the sport does it kind of brings the best out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it does go against some of the things that you would normally think about because we're not, tire wear is still of a concern, but we can do things with toe that any other racing couldn't do because the car just wouldn't be driving the same way. So.
Well, and we get a reset every 2 laps, right?
Yeah.
So, like, man, imagine if you could race Le Mans and pull the car off every 2 laps and make a change.
That's a solid point.
Right? So,
yeah.
like, the development goes a lot riskier almost because you have the opportunity to, like, put some more in it. Oh, we can pull it back out. Oh, we can do this. Like, it's all on the fly, like, in between each battle.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess looking at tire wear, you're able to understand very quickly what's good, what's bad. And, we still track things like speed in some cases with lap times. So you're able to figure out, like, oh, cool, we can pick up, a tenth a lap by doing this thing, but we may not make it around 2 laps because of how much toe in we've dialed.
Yeah, or anything really with the setup in general. Like the tire wear here, a lot of it's the gearing, right? So you have a lot of wheel speed, so you can have a lot of angle and look sick in the lead run, but then you can't do a chase because your tires are gone in the second lap. So this becomes like a lot more of a strategy on how to get through these laps to maximize the car for lap 1 and lap 2. Some other tracks don't quite have that.
Yeah, it really comes down to surface. I posted up on Instagram earlier just like how rough the track is here entering outside zone 2. It's a cheese grater.
Yeah.
It's like 5 grit.
It's funny because it gets better throughout the weekend because it fills with rubber. Right? So at least like you're against something that's not so abrasive. But the tire wear here for the first like 6 hours, like leading up to where it's at right now, is much worse than it is now.
Okay.
The tire wear gets a lot better as the track kind of rubbers in.
A lot of racing talks about track tech, and drifting is still super important. What, from a technical standpoint, for somebody that's like maybe at home, what are changes that have to be made when it comes to maybe this track in particular as it gets colder? We talk about the track tightening up, right?
Yep.
Like that's a term that I think we throw around, but maybe not explain fully what a track tightening up is.
Yeah, I think it's an easy way to explain it is like when you're road racing and you're out there and driving, right? And you do a lap and your tires get hotter, right? They're getting hotter at a pretty slow rate, and you're driving at the capability of the tire.
Right.
In this sport, we're driving past the capability of it all the time, right?
Yeah.
So when you're past the point of that, it's much easier to feel these changes in track temp because you're not trying to reach it, you've already surpassed it.
Yeah.
So when the track gets cooler out here, it hooks up a ton, the speed starts getting crazy, and you have to basically either adjust tire pressure or shock or, a wheel spacer or something that kind of helps you make the car feel the same and be consistent throughout those changes. And that's like years and years of figuring it out, paying attention to track time, planning your track time for the next day. When it's like, at 4 o'clock we got a battle. Yesterday at 4 o'clock it was this temp. We got to have this set up so it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how much goes into that, and it's easy to overcomplicate, but it's easy to undercomplicate. So, take a look at the seating bracket. Obviously, you've got some. Everybody here is obviously a buddy in some case, but the ones that come to mind for me: Strawberry Yawn versus Adam LZ. You guys are basically neighbors, and then Ben Hobson and Connor Shanahan. So, thoughts on anything else, or thoughts on these battles, or anything you're excited for?
Yeah, I mean, I think these battles are going to be great. This track really brings out the best in a lot of the drivers. Even though it's a simple 2-turn track, it really makes the focus be on every little aspect of it,
Yeah.
And really kind of you can see who puts the style and puts the line and the effort into each lead run, and then in the chase, where that risk happens. I think a lot of good tandem at this track is based off the risk. So if you have a risky driver, you might see some really good driving. It might end well. It might not end up, causing an issue. But I think a lot of it has to do with the risk because there are so many blind sections through inner 1 and inner 2. You don't know where the lead car driver is going to go, and it gets really difficult there. So I'm excited to see all the battles. I think you'll see some battles that maybe you think may not be crazy, and they end up being that way.
Yeah, no, it's, it's the best part of this track is how things are going to go. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here, but when we come back, more practice. I think you got a few more minutes?
Sure.
All right, we'll keep Chelsea around. Stay tuned, we'll be right back, and we'll get some insight from the champ.
In drifting, everything's a mental game.
Perfect.
If you're not focused, you're off your game.
Ryan Turk is back at it. He wants it.
Charlie. Launch sequence engaged. We are go. We have liftoff.
Extreme performance racing. Battle tested in Formula Drift for the last 4 years. XPR contains Centerlook additive technology, ultimate Z DDP wear protection, and superior high-temp performance. Pour Purple, Royal Purple, the synthetic expert.
Drifting is not just a sport, it's culture, it's in our blood.
It's a fine line that you have to walk. You have to be able to adapt on the fly and be able to drive on your instinct.
Tires are what we live and breathe in Formula D. We couldn't do this without them.
All right, we are back here in Orlando. I got Mr. DeNofa next to me. How's the swap to Florida been?
Oh, it's been good. I love it down here. Yeah, it's really good because during the season, like even though I'm not driving FD, I'm traveling all over the place and it's really hot, right? Yeah. So where I was living before, it was, you know, nice during that time, but miserable during the winter. But here, when I'm off, I have time to have great winter. Like it's 65 degrees and sunny every day.
Novak, man. Novak has been driving like an animal.
He has been driving like a maniac today on lock the whole time.
Yeah.
If he cleans it up a little bit, he's going to be a force.
There you go.
Yep, I
called it.
Yep.
It's almost announcer's curse, man. First time you got it.
I was watching it happen as I was saying it. But yeah, you could see him kind of leaving outer zone 1, going into inner clip 1, just kind of trying to get the car to drive off because he was over driving it on the bank a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the easy thing to do at this track with the track temps. It gets really hot.
Is it one of those just getting your wheel speed dialed in so you're not basically boiling the tires at that point?
I would say if you have 2 really good drivers and you're out there and one driver is 20% better at conserving tire than the other driver, that guy is going to win.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it is a conservation game.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And it's who can conserve better while keeping a run that's really, really good. There's this track is very tricky, and it's like I said, mostly in the game of how you can get around the track, fill all the zones, make the judges happy on your lead while conserving as much tire as possible.
Yeah, you just make it sound easy. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like a particular, maybe not like same thing, you don't have to give away any secrets, but like, is there a percentage of wheel speed from front to rear that you would be looking for? I know it's not every. I know not every car.
Every car's different. Every tire's different. You know, I pretty much at these tracks I roll off the trailer targeting like 1.8 or 1.9 times wheel speed.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. All right.
2.0 is way too much of this track because you can't get tires to last.
Right. So you're basically completely gone by the end.
Yeah, and this is wild because this is the first time we'll be here with the seating bracket, right?
Yeah.
And usually we'd be qualifying in this, not worrying about tire wear on the first day, because again, the first day, wear tire is much worse. So the battles that you see today during seating will have more effect of tire wear than tomorrow.
Interesting. I did not think of that. Yeah, I didn't put that together yet. Thank you. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, especially with this bracket, there's a good mix of drivers, skill levels, tires, vehicles. So
that's the best part.
I mean, it really is the best part of FD. Is just it seems like such a crapshoot of what you're gonna get.
Yeah, and also like there's cars that are really good at this track. There's cars that aren't, and then the next round there's cars that are really good at that track, and there's cars that aren't. So it's really a game of, like I said, the importance of how many laps you get and how many years you've been doing it to nail that setup to make a car kind of like a Swiss Army knife for the season.
Yeah, I guess you have to make. You try not to, but you're going to make concessions to do better at certain tracks over other ones, right?
Yep.
Like,
I mean, literally, that's how I won last year.
Yeah?
I made all the concessions.
You didn't throw anything into the concessions. It was fine. It was fine. You made it work. I mean, it was a really cool season, and from my perspective, to be honest, like super honored to be able to call those runs in Irwindale and be there and do that. So it was a nuts season. It was super emotional. To see how emotional you got winning that championship too, and I do love the way, as much as it kind of sucks, that you finished your season the way you started it, right? Just odds against you, clutch kicking around the track, underpowered, cars broken.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Just 1 second.
No, it's fine. No, I agree. Like that, my first run in Formula D ever, I had a same type of failure as my last run. So.
Sick. Dude, thank you so much for doing this. I'll let you get back out on the weekend. It's cool to see you around. You know, you guys catch Chelsea.
No worries.
Give him a high five. And for everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out during practice. That was the hand of Mr. Sage there.
Sorry. Sorry.
But when we get back, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but we'll be back with the Seeding 16. Don't go anywhere. Super pumped. Let's go, Orlando. We'll have a great night.
Formula Drift is brought to you by Toyota, let's go places. Royal Purple, the official engine oil of Formula Drift, the synthetic expert. Rockstar Energy, the official energy drink of Formula Drift.